Hello and welcome to another episode of Be Kind Rewinder. Rewinder is an independent publication here to talk about games that we care about in a thoughtful way. Henry is out again this week after dying in a fight with a lion. Terrible circus accident. We told him he wasn't trained. But he.
I told him he could take him. I'm going to be honest.
Oh, did okay.
Say that now.
Are you just trying to get a bigger cut of the company again?
Look.
Yeah, we know what's going on. I'm your host, Lex Luddy, deputy editor for the website, and I'm joined, as always, by managing editor Scott McRae. Scott, how are you doing?
It's hot as balls out here.
It's really
it
hot.
Be. We live in Scotland and Ireland. It should not be hot. But
I saw people out at Develop and Develops in Brighton on the beach, and I was like, these gamers, they're not equipped for this weather.
I was like, this is a shit summer, and in a kind of good way, like, oh, it's been raining a lot, so and then of course this week it's like, ooh, here we go. But other than that, I am perfectly cromulent.
Good. We are also joined by our special guest, Will from Skybox. How are you doing? Tell us a little bit about Skybox and yourself.
Hi everybody, my name is Will Borger. I'm the editor-in-chief over at Skybox, another independent games website focused on good writing, fine criticism, and all the lovely vices that games engender in all of us.
Oh, you're doing good writing? Okay, that's good because we have bad writing covered over here.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought what you guys were doing was pretty good. But, if you think it's bad, that's fine.
What a kiss ass. We're like, what, 2 minutes in, you're already kissed our asses.
Yeah.
I read you guys of my own volition, to be honest. So, like,
man, my mom doesn't even do that.
Yeah, that makes fun of us.
Yeah, hey, you know what? It's fine. But other places that you may have seen me, I've been doing this for about 12 years. IGN, Shack News, Restart, PC Gamer, etc. So
all over the place.
I like games. All over the place.
Yeah. On this episode, we'll discuss Microsoft cancelling games, Microsoft shutting down studios, and ask just what does Microsoft provide to the industry in 2025. But first, I want to give a quick shout out again to Jirum for art. Go follow them on Blue Sky, Jir_rum. They're great, and I love this artwork so much. It's so good. Before we get on to the news, and there's a lot of news this week, I want to talk a little bit about what we've been playing. Scott, I finished Death Stranding 2. And I reviewed Death Stranding 2 for the website, which you can go read now, and I gave it a 5 out of 10. I'm not a huge fan of this game. Scott, just for the audience, in case they forgot, what score did you give this game?
A 5 out of 5.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You know what? I've been not dreading this conversation, but absolutely dreading it. But when you told me about how your review was going and I knew Henry was editing it, I was like, I'm emotionally detached. I don't need to have this conversation. We're fine.
And then
I edited it.
Yeah, then Henry was like, I can't edit this. Sorry. Scott, can you edit?
I think we should maybe let you say what you don't like about it first, but there are maybe parts of your review I didn't quite agree with, but there are criticisms where I'm like, yeah, no, that tracks, but it's also, yeah, no, that tracks in the, oh yeah, I like that kind of way sometimes. Yeah. Maybe not the weird about women stuff, but I mean,
and I feel like
how many years now?
I feel like I have to preface this every time I talk about Kojima or Death Stranding stuff. And, like, I very almost put this in the review, but I was like, no, like, just leave it stand on its own. But, like, I'm glad he makes these things. I'm glad he's fucking weird. I'm glad his games are weird. I'm glad he gets a big budget to make weird games, and that by him doing that, other people in the industry maybe get a bit more freedom because companies look at the success he has and are like, yeah, maybe we can let these creatives actually be creative. I really like that. I'm glad that his games take big swings. I just don't think that Death Stranding 2 is as... I have problems with the gameplay loop of Death Stranding 2 primarily. Um, which is like my big problem with that game is I really like walking around. I really, really like walking around in that game. After the first like 4 or 5 hours, you do very little walking around. You are just driving that truck. Because there's basically no reason why you would do anything else. You can carry the most amount of stuff on that truck. Um, it is like the most efficient way to get around and to do all your deliveries and to increase your porter rank and all those different things. And I think that just kind of detracts from both one the mood of the game, the kind of isolationist, quiet, contemplative walking where you have to consider your route and you have to think about where you're going next, which I think is the strongest part of that game. Like it's a unique gameplay system to make the walking the challenge. And then the other thing that it kind of does is it undermines some of the story beats that they go for in the later half, which I won't spoil on this podcast, but I do talk about a little bit in the review. Um, but there's a lot of stuff in that end game about like the importance of movement for humans, and then so much of the gameplay loop of Death Stranding 2 is automation and the satisfaction of automation, which the story would have you believe is a bad thing, but the gameplay loop would have you believe is the satisfying thing. And it feels a little bit confused in that sense. Um, I also talked a little bit again about like I think that game's tone is really weird in the fact that like everyone is super fucking nice to Sam all the time. Um no one ever has anything bad to say to Sam. No one ever has any conflict with Sam other than the villain. Um and it's just like it's codec call after codec call of people being like, Sam, you're the best. You delivered these toiletries. None of us could have taken a shit without you. Thanks. Um, and after a while, I'm like, I think because the performances are so flat, and some of that is done on purpose, because I do think Kojima is telling these actors to be reserved in their performances because he wants a low key, somber mood. Um, but because they're so flat in their deliveries and they're so monotone, oftentimes they're like, it feels like they're giving you faint praise to a child. It's like, ah, Sam, you did so great with that delivery. Thanks. And by the end of the game, I'm just kind of like, you know, this is a lot of famous Hollywood celebrities and women that Kojima clearly likes telling me how great I am. And that is a little bit weird. Like, I'm not a huge fan of that vibe. Um, Also, this week, a really good piece by Maddie Myers went up about, like, the role of gender in that game that I would recommend you check out if you don't. Was that on Endless Mode? I think it was.
It was in that mode, yeah.
Yeah, but that's a really good piece, and you should check it out if you haven't, because I didn't get into that stuff in my review. But those are my main things. Like the highs of that game are still really high. I think that when you are cresting a hill and music kicks in, and you are just walking and you are thinking about where you're walking and you're just in that moment, that's really unique and special. But then there were times where like I was in a truck and the music would kick in and I would arrive at the destination before the chorus even hits, and I'm like, man, like
So
we've just
we're
sanded off the edges in so many ways.
we're at a good point for me to interject. I'm going to respond to your criticism of the truck thing with the most annoying response, and I'm aware of this, but just don't use it because that's what I did, and I don't know if that's maybe part of the divide on how we feel about the game because I similarly don't really love that you can just make things a lot easier with that truck, especially. And you talk more about the music. Every time the music kicked in and I was in a vehicle, immediately I would like get out and I would walk slowly because obviously it's a bit more manufactured that way if I'm doing that. And there are times where you do get there in a vehicle and it does fit, like the one right at the end, where you're coming off the mountain and you're going to the
Where you kind of have to
kind of,
go across the entire
yeah,
continent again. Yeah.
like South Fortnite. I same with that like that last act where you have the big mission where you have to kind of do the go from the furthest point to the other side of Mexico. Like that one, I did not touch a vehicle at all. I was like, nah. The only I would say I do like how the coffin boards work. I use them a lot because the way they work is that's a easy vehicle, but the second you're not on the network, can't use it anymore. And I think
Yeah.
that's a good balance of it.
And there's part of me that kind of wishes all the vehicles were like that.
Yeah,
Like, if they came up with some story conceit of, no, when you're exploring an area for the first time, you have to do it on foot.
I do think like the mountain section was a good like that really kind of forced you into using not only the vehicle or not only the kind of getting out the vehicles, but also I didn't really interact much with the PCC this time around, like creating
Yeah.
kind of like structures and all that. But then when that mountain comes, you get to that point where I was suddenly building loads of zip lines, I was building loads of cannons and stuff like that. And I think that there's an element of that where if that was a bit earlier, because at that point you are pretty much done.
Yeah.
Like that's I think the
And you
first
you kind
mission.
of have a lot of the other tools to make that
Yeah,
way easier. Like, you have the exoskeleton, you very quickly get a thing that makes breathing in high altitude easier. Like, I think one of the things that I do find a little bit frustrating is how quickly the game will go, like, okay, here's a new challenge, but after you've experienced it, like, maybe once, they'll be like, and here, now you have something that you never have to face that challenge again. You never have to deal with it again. You don't have to worry about, like, oxygen getting thin at high altitude because we've given you a mask. And that's like the first thing you get when you do one delivery in the mountains.
mm,
Um, and it just feels a bit like, I'm sure that it it's interesting that Kojima was out there saying that he changed some of the game based on mock reviews and initial impressions being too positive, because a lot of this game as it stands feels like reactionary to people who didn't like the first game and didn't like the frustrations in that first game.
yeah. I again I don't. It's a case of kind of playing it how you play it because I didn't really interact with the combat that much. I know you mentioned like using the grenade launcher was basically the win, but like I don't think I actually used that the whole time I played the game. I just I and obviously again that's the annoying answer to because it's
Yeah.
not really like a back and forth. It's a well I didn't do that. Um, as for your kind of other point, I don't know if this is just me only having like the third act in my mind or something like that. I actually thought the performances were a lot better from the kind of returning cast this time, aside from like the ones who are barely in it this time. Like,
I
I think,
still think Leah Sado is like
yeah,
lost in that role. Like, is clearly just like, doesn't understand the material and doesn't really care.
I don't think that character is a weird character in that game in ways. Like it feels like so is Hartman, honestly. Like the kind of two characters they bring back as your main crew, it feels weird because you're doing such a like dramatic shift to like this completely new cast. Like Margaret Qualley's not even in there aside from
But she's
maybe
still credited in the intro. They're still like starring Margaret Qualley.
she did one line.
I
If you
so I've
pick,
seen people be like, I'm 90% sure this is two lines stitched together from the previous game.
yeah,
Um,
probably.
which is so like,
I,
I wonder if she even knows if she's in this game.
I will say I think that, and again, very little screen time until the third act, but I think Luca Marinelli actually
He's
does do a
yes,
fucking phenomenal job
he's
in that
very
game.
good with very limited screen time and limited dialogue too. Like, his facial capture is really good, and maybe
Like
that dude just has very impressive eyes. Like,
Mads in the last game was like a highlight, but I think that Tommy Earl Jenkins did a better job, especially with that kind of big monologue at the end in the first game. But I think Marinelli is like by far the best actor in this game. And honestly,
he was good enough
as
that
much
when I rolled credits, I was
oh
kind of
god,
like, oh, I'm gonna check
as
this
much as
guy's IMDb. I'm gonna go look at what else he's been
as
in.
it pains me to kind of admit it, because I generally don't love his kind of normal voice, but I actually really like Troy Baker in this one as well. Like he was doing the Troy Baker voice, but I thought he did a very good job with the Troy Baker voice.
I think he's having a lot more fun, and some of that
Yeah,
comes from the point of I bet that from a direction point of view, it is much easier for Kojima to talk to Troy Baker in video game parlance or video game direction parlance and be like, this is what I'm going for in the final fight, which is a very video gamey thing, and for Troy Baker to dial into what that means. Whereas when he's trying to direct Hollywood actors who maybe don't do a lot of VO voice work, I think there might be more of a struggle in conveying what he wants from them. And as a
It's like
result,
the
Troy
opposite.
Baker he knows what he should be going for a bit better because he knows
It's
the
kind of the
medium.
opposite of the Phantom Pain problem, where like you have Kiefer Sutherland, who is a Hollywood kind of or TV at that point actor, and then you have the anime voice cast of like Robert Atkin Downs and
Yeah.
Tara Strong and all that, and they're the best performances in the game. Whereas Kiefer's like, "Get your way," like it's kind of the opposite problem there.
I'm gonna
I
go
guess.
jump in this Christmas tree.
I do like Kiefer Sutherland though.
I like
do
that
love him.
video of Kiefer Sutherland jumping into a Christmas tree when he's really drunk. That's a good video.
They should no.
Yeah.
I'm not
Well,
gonna
I'm
say
curious.
what
Have
to
you
say.
played either the Death Strandings?
Yeah, you picked a bad fucking week, Will.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm still reeling from Lex going into like very detailed criticism of like, I love the way the humans move, and then you drive the truck, and Scott basically coming back and being like, you control the buttons you press.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I
Listen.
think I would feel less cool about the game if I did do that. Like if I just drove the whole time. If I did if we got like 2 weeks or like a week to review this, and I had to fucking blast through it and do that and like just drive everywhere, I probably would feel quite
And
similar.
that was kind of my feeling because I got the review code at launch, and I was like, I want to have a review up. So I wasn't taking my time. If I had gotten sent before launch, I probably would have, for some of those deliveries, just been like, I'm just gonna walk this time. Some of this is also like my terrible brain being rotted by RPGs and like trying to 100% RPGs and get platinum trophies and stuff like that. Like, there's a terrible part of my brain that is going for the optimal route and is like, I'm gonna min-max this all the time because if not, what am I even doing here? Which is a terrible way to engage with art. But it's the way I happen to engage with this piece of art.
I mean, Jordan Allman of Post Mode fame messaged me during it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I've like maxed out every outpost in Mexico by now," and I'm like, "What the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that shit."
I think Jordan wound up.
Especially-
I think Jordan wound up on like the front of the Death Stranding Reddit because of how many likes one of his things had.
I forget who said it, but someone said, as a designer, and they said, if you give people the ability to min-max stuff, they will min-max everything interesting out of the game.
Yeah.
And I think that, to Alex's point, like when you get it, right? Like we're on timetables, right? And that changes the way that we deal with stuff and the way we play things and the way that we kind of engage with it. And I think one thing that's like worth remembering is like, especially, we don't interact with this stuff the way that like normal people do, where they're not like, I got the timetable, I have to have a take. You know what I mean? They're just kind of like vibing, they're doing their thing. Like maybe they play for like 1 hour and then they don't touch that game for a week.
And like most people who spend $80 on a game want that game to last for as long as possible. Whereas we're like, oh, we have to get on to the next game.
Yeah, I played that first game over the course of like probably about a month and a half maybe. And then this one obviously I did it in about 2.5 weeks, which I mean there's an element of I did everything I wanted to do this time around. It's not like I rushed it because I did all the sub orders, I did all the main orders and stuff, and I got all the bases, but I wasn't doing like, oh, I'm going to level up the bases, or I'm going to go take these standards orders, or I'm going to pick up this lost cargo, But I to kind of go back to that min-maxing point, I think that is why I feel so differently about Dragon's Dogma 2 than a lot of people seem to, where that for me, where that game shines. Oh my god, dog just.
Did your dog just sneeze?
It was the most heinous cough. Oh, he's doing it again. Okay. We've no one else is here to look after him, so I've got to leave the office door open, and he's ragdolling his toys about. So I do apologize if you hear in the background. But yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2. That game does not want you to min-max. That game wants you to just fucking play it. Like, the idea of... I think they've changed this now, but you had one save. You didn't really get to save scum at all.
Mhm.
And missions, like, there's a mission in Dragon Dogma 2 where you show up at a village and it's like, have you seen my son? He went off to this kind of bear fucking den or something like that. Can you go find him or whatever? So I just said, okay, I'll do that in a bit. Came back like halfway through the game again, came back, got to the end of that thing, and there's just kids' clothes there. I then played a second run of that game, which is probably the only time I've done that before a review. And I did it right away, and it was there. So like, there's stuff you can just get locked out of, and I find that so cool. But when it comes to like min-maxing stuff, I get why, like, it's so prickly. But that's what kind of, I don't know, that's kind of what makes it cool. And it's the same as the thing here, where like a lot of people will just do like, oh, what's the easiest way to guarantee? Okay, well, 10 zip lines or whatever, you know. So maybe it's just me being unwell.
Yeah, it's
Let's go
weird.
and giant
Like,
one.
it's weird because the game has stuck with me in ways. Like, I've been listening to the soundtrack all week, and like I have been thinking about it. I just am like, the highs are brought down by like certain design choices that really get to me. And so yeah, I find it a very interesting game, which is a lot more than I can say about other games. Will, speaking of interesting games, tell me
Yes.
about College Football 26.
You know, it's college football. It's really fascinating to be somebody who does sports reviews, right? To play like a game for a very long time and to get very enmeshed in like
The minutia.
the way, yeah, the minutia, right? Like the way the game works that people who play it a lot understand, and people who don't play it a lot don't understand. So like one of the big things that they've done this year in college football is they've made it so that you can substitute players on the field. And before, you had to go into a menu pre-play and say, okay, in this formation, I want to take this player out and put this player in. Now you can line up and be like, I want to swap this guy. And you can do it on the field. And that changes like basically everything about the way you think about the video game. And it's very minor. It's just this function that you've had, and now you can do it in a different place.
And as someone who isn't super in my American football knowledge isn't great. Is that more true to reality, or is that more
Yes.
okay? So there will be like last minute player switches, kind of. Okay.
Yes. And in a similar vein, like they've done a lot of big stuff too. Like one of the big complaints from last year was like when because in college, right, like you're where you're recruited is based on how well you do in high school. And there wasn't really a way to play through like your high school career last year. And they've added that. And they've been like, okay, so you're gonna play some high school games and like I forget what the mode is called. It's not Superstar, that's Madden. It's Road to Glory. Basically, where you create a character and you go through and you play their career. And they've basically had it so, oh, well, now you're going to play this, and how well you do in these games is actually going to affect like what schools think of you and what they're looking for and how you address this situation. And so that's like a really cool thing that they've added too, right? So it's a lot of this stuff is like very like in the weeds. Like the core game is in many ways functionally the same, but if you're one of those people who's played a lot of Madden or played a lot of college football, you're like, as soon as you throw a pass, you're like, that's going to be an interception. I shouldn't have thrown that. And then they've changed the way that works, where it's like, well, now the defensive back needs to be able to see the ball, otherwise they can't go and get it. Right? They can swat it, but they can't go grab it. And it's little things like these when you're going from year to year that you're like, huh, that's good. I wonder how many people actually are going to notice that kind of stuff. So it's weird, and it's more than any other game where like I think because most games don't have yearly installments, right? Or like, or if they do, it's like back when fighting games used to get like new release, like here's Third Strike, it's new thing. Where it was more obvious, whereas this is like a lot of little subtle things and like big stuff, like hey, you can play your high school career,
Which
so
is interesting because it was gone for so long, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
That they've gone straight back to the minor iterations.
I'm quite interested, and I've been wanting to ask this to someone who knew for ages, but I haven't come across anyone. Is that game just like literally? Does that just play like Madden, and then
No,
or does it play differently because of it?
plays differently.
Okay, well, it's interesting to say about the high school thing because that's the big thing with WWE games right now. Is I like the storylines they do, but they just fucking book you to like you're instantly on the top of the show fighting for the title, and it's like shit
Mhm.
like that. Where I'm like, so that sounds like a good way to do it. But I get what you mean in terms of these minor details, because like something like I think maybe last year, or the year before, WWE were like, we've added ambulance matches and casket matches to the game. Woo. But also they added the ability to just fucking throw a weapon when you have one.
Yep, I remember that.
And
Yeah.
that's more game changing to me than okay, here's two match types that actually just kind of play the same. Sorry, I went on a tangent about WWE there, but
I always get so jealous when I hear people who are into the bigger sports franchises talk about like their games being a disappointment this year, and I'm off with the fucking terrible rugby games that come out once every
hey,
5 years.
you have Madden.
Fucking careful now. Careful now. I'm going to take out a history book and explain to you how American football is a bastardization of a real
Oh,
sport.
that is something I have also played this week. So I'm going to take Cyberpunk off because I don't have anything of note to say other than I am playing Cyberpunk. I've been playing UFC 5, which I played before. Weird those games don't come out yearly.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know what's
seems
going
like.
on.
Is that a 2K game?
That's an EA game.
It's an
Yeah.
EA game?
Yep.
God.
And it's like
Mhm.
literally, it just seems to be whenever the fuck they feel like it. It never seems to have like a
Who
release
develops it?
schedule or anything like that. Oh god,
It's not the old Fight Night team, is it?
I believe it is, yeah.
That's
Okay.
wild.
Because there's not been one of those, and
Since 3, which is
no,
2000.
they did that. Oh, what was it called? It was like the one that had like the edgy story where you play the guy and you get framed for murder and you have to fight in prison. Oh god, that's gonna annoy the fucking life out of me.
Anyway,
EA
because
Vancouver
I
does
know
it.
you're all curious, the Switch recently got Jono Lomo Rugby Challenge 4, which is just a
Hell yeah.
reskin of a game from 2006 starring a dead rugby player. So
Hell
that's
yeah.
where rugby games are at the moment.
Fight Night
Actually, I think
Champion.
it's like
Sorry.
2013 was when that original rugby challenge came out. Those games are really broken and bad. And the what's it called? Nacon Rugby 25 game is also still really broken and bad. Please, for the love of God, just make a good rugby game. I'm begging you. Speaking of things that were a little bit questionable at launch and have been updated a lot, I've been playing Soul Hackers 2, the Shimigami Tensei Devil Summoner thing. I don't have much to say about it other than I was stunned to learn that when that game launched, it didn't have a sprint button. It was a dungeon crawling game with a bunch of like very repetitive dungeons. It's not the most interesting dungeons. The combat is good, but it didn't have a sprint button. And oh my god, the base movement speed is so slow that I cannot imagine reviewing that game without a sprint button. It seems like you would lose your mind. Because I'm playing it and I'm like, oh, I'm already like a third of the way through this game, and then I look at like the how long to beat, and the playtime is way longer than anything that I'm gonna hit, and I'm like, why were the playtime so long? It is just that the movement speed was terrible, and it drove people around the bend. That continues my Mega 10 rabbit hole. I'm also playing Persona 4 Golden in the evenings before I go to sleep. That game, I haven't gone to any of the like super problematic stuff, but it's nice just to be like doing that thing again. There's a certain rhythm and a cadence to those games where I'm like, okay, this is nice, and I kind of just want to get a basis for because I never played Golden. I kind of want to get a basis for that before the remake comes out. And I'm getting the feeling that remake might be early 2026. Scott, you have been playing another old game, but a new version of it. Can you tell me a little bit about Patapon 1+2?
Turns out I'm gonna fucking blow your mind here. This is what I'm gonna write about, by the way, so I'm spoiling the content, but the content. Turns out Patapon is real good on a handheld, huh?
Yeah, turns out Patapon is still just real good in general. Because I've
Turns out,
also been
like,
playing this.
I played it before in the PS4, and obviously that version had like weird input lag and shit.
Yeah.
And playing it now on a Switch or a Switch 2 rather, I'm like, oh my god, this is like perfect. Also, that game is fucking hard. I've not played the second one yet. I'm still making my way through the first one. But the way that game does grinding and loot drops, it's kind of
That was because I had never like played much of it before. I played like the first 2 levels pretty much on emulators because I never owned a PSP. But like actually playing a couple of hours the other night, I was like, oh, I have to like grind. I didn't realize that was this
Oh, yeah.
game.
I'm only like the third boss, and I played like 4 or 5 hours. That game is tough.
Yeah,
Um,
but like it's so charming that I'm okay. Like you hear the same noises over and over and over, and every time I'm still like pada 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 pa.
oh yeah, I definitely got into like a trance the other night where like a good few hours went by where I was just sat in here with the Switch, like going at it, and then suddenly it's been like 3 hours, and I'm like, oh shit. Also,
Are there
does not
any?
run the battery down.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it shouldn't. You know, when you think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there any like other PSP and PS Vita games that you still want to see ported over? Because we've gotten Lumines, and now we're getting a new Lumines, which is I'm so
I
excited
mean,
for new Lumines.
I can
game is
see
cool.
them doing.
Oh, have you played it?
I got to see it at SGF. Yeah,
I'm jealous.
it's very cool.
I can see them doing Loco Roco. That game kind of rules, but especially after the whole Astrobot thing. Which
Yeah, it
I
has
feel like we're
been
far enough
weird that
down
like Sony has been licensing out its IP to Bandai Namco to do remakes. Like,
yeah, but what the fuck are they doing with it?
yeah, like, hey Bandai, go
Well, no,
make
'cause
Freedom Wars again, because we're not gonna fucking touch it.
the new Everybody's Golf, I believe, is just like a straight up new game though,
Yeah,
from Bandai Namco, which is
Mhm.
also quite odd. I don't know if they maybe got like who's it that does those games? Is it
Clap Hands. Clap Hands are doing their own thing now.
Clapmans?
Yeah,
No, are they okay?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of a weirder one to me than okay, we're not doing anything Patapon, throw it on Switch because obviously these games aren't on Xbox, so Sony's still like that bit petty, sorry. But I mean, it's better than letting them die, and also you're now going to get people double dipping because I'm sure people will buy that 1+2 Patapon on PS5, even though both of those games are already on there.
yeah.
I believe the third one's on there as well, but
4 of them are on there. All 4 of them.
is there 4?
Yeah, I think there's a 4th one.
Oh man.
There's at least 3.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm thinking of Loco Roco, which has the 4 of them.
Oh, Loco Roco has like the weird like Loco Roco Shiroko, which is like a interactive screensaver, and then there's like Loco
Midnight
Roco
something or another.
Carnival or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Speaking of carnivals, are there any carnivals in Mecha Break, Will?
There aren't. What a transition. No, there are.
I gotta make them work somehow.
No. So I got to play that for IGN, and my review went live yesterday. Mega Break is really fascinating because it is simultaneously like a game for horn dogs and also like a really great mecha game. Like the character design in that is
I know
is
that
basically
Venn
like,
diagram seems like a circle to me.
yeah, it is. Everybody is hot. IGN allowed me to use the word "stacked in defiance of God" to describe some of the female character models, which I was very deeply grateful for. Because that's what they are, right? Like, there's a very specific market for this. But the actual game is this really gorgeous kind of like very fast-paced, very team-based, for lack of a better word, kind of a hero shooter. Where each mech has its own different classes, and you don't really customize them. It's just this is how it comes. And it's 6v6, and I will tell you that like the act of playing that. Oh, sorry, my wife is home. The act of playing that is one of those things where you get into a groove and suddenly, kind of like Patapon, like, hey, it's 3 hours later. I don't know what happened, but we have just played like 8 games or however many games it will take you to get to 3 hours in a row. I think what I really admire about it is the way that it forces you to be a team. Like if you don't coordinate in that game, you are not going to win. And how it marries like the different modes that you play to specific maps. Like only certain maps have team deathmatch. Only certain maps like King of the Hill. Only certain maps have this one mode where you have to destroy certain things. And doing that really makes the maps like feel unique. It's not like you're transporting a game mode and playing it 100 different ways. So it's really cool. It's
And
just very horny.
Is it free to play?
It is, yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
and
Um,
what's that like as a free to play experience?
it's pretty good. So there is a real money auction house. There's another mode. There's three modes. There's like an extraction shooter, which I didn't really care for. There's the 6v6 mode, and there's a 3v3 mode. And as a free to play game, basically there are 15 mechs, and you get 12 of them for free. Just straight up for free, you get them. The other three can be unlocked with in-game currency. One you can buy if you would like, but you can get all three of them just by playing. And like most of the stuff that you would spend money on is, cosmetics. If you want to buy stuff for the extraction part of the game, you can. Again, I didn't really vibe with it, so I didn't. But I think it's pretty open as a free to play game, pretty easy to understand. Like you're not going to be at a substantial disadvantage in any mode if you don't spend money. And on the 6v6 and 3v3 stuff, which is just straight competitive, like the only thing you got to do is unlock the next mech, and even if you don't have it, like the ones that you do have are quite good. So
Cool. Um, that game sounds pretty cool, but what if instead of humans piloting the mechs, there were monkeys piloting the mechs? Scott?
I mean, Ape Escape's kind of more like the mechs are piloting the monkeys, right? It's like
You're right, you're right.
the SpongeBob movie Plankton helmet of its day. Um, yeah, I've been playing Ape Escape 1, and I've also been playing Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze um, to get myself an apish mood for something coming out, which I'm not playing. I don't know why I didn't say Donkey Kong Bonanza there, but that makes it sound like I'm playing it. I'm not. I'm very sad about it. Don't remind me about it. But yeah, so I'm just putting these together because they're both monkey platformers. Ape Escape 1, that shit fucking slaps. That music,
It's
ooh,
still really good. I played it
got
again
that
recently.
soundtrack. Like
that game is awesome.
Yeah.
after like 2 levels, I was like, "Fuck, I need to buy that soundtrack." Um,
That game does it's one of the few platformers that doesn't have camera control that is very easy to go back to and it still makes sense.
yeah,
Like, I know a lot of people, and I've especially had this because I didn't play that many 3D platformers, especially without camera control. Like, I started playing video games after that was just a common thing. And so going back to ones where that's not a common thing and it's like maybe C buttons or stuff like that, it can sometimes be jarring. But that game, because of the way that using the equipment works, has you engaged in using the other stick, and that makes so much sense on its own that you just kind of stop thinking about the camera pretty quickly.
I it does get better as the series goes on. I have found myself struggling a bit with it. Same with the uh when you like climb poles in that game. Sometimes you need to double jump off of it, and it's so finicky. But going because I haven't played Ape Escape 1 in a while. Like it's been, I don't know, a good 10 years or so. Going back to that game after playing Ape Escape 3 reminds me of Jesus Christ. Ape Escape 3 is perhaps the I'm not gonna say most underrated platformer, but it's like the only platformer I can think of that hits best of all time status that never gets mentioned in that conversation.
It's also like really good looking for a PS2 game.
Yeah, Ape Escape 3 is like so well done. It's like so dense, but also not like filler, and it's so like it's the Astrobot of its day in some ways in terms of how kind of varied each kind of level gets for you. Um, Ape Escape 1, I'd still say it's my second favorite. I think 2 is kind of a bit of a letdown, but um, yeah, going back to Ape Escape 1 has made me like Ape Escape 3 more than anything, which is also a similar situation for when I went back to Donkey Kong Country Returns earlier this year when I reviewed it, that new version. I can't
And
remember what
this
it's
is
called. I think
the
it's Stage 2.
Switch version.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm playing Tropical Freeze now. And again, playing Returns back then just reminded me of Jesus Christ, they nailed it so hard on Tropical Freeze. Because Returns is like, I can see why that game is so beloved because it came out at a time where um,
There wasn't
you hadn't
much
had
on the Wii.
anything, yeah, and you hadn't had a Donkey Kong Country in like what 20 something years
Yeah,
coming up
about
on
that.
that. But going back to that game is not aged the best, and I was kind of worried about Tropical Freeze for that reason. But no, Tropical Freeze is still like in terms of 2D platformers, it's up there. And I think even I know there are people who don't like how heavy those games are, and obviously it makes sense because it's a big fucking gorilla. But even outside of that, like outside of the actual platforming, which is, can get nuts, it's just like everything else about that game is so well designed.
It is good
And I
music.
feel
That game has
like,
fun
yeah,
music.
David Wise went fucking ham on that soundtrack. The levels are like gorgeous, especially when we're talking like 2014 Wii
Wii
U
U.
graphics. Those levels are so well designed and so look so nice and are so varied, especially compared to what we were getting from Mario at the time. I think there's like I want to say it's like Video Game Donkey or something like that. He did a thing in one of his reviews where he was like, here's free clips from Mario, here's free clips from Donkey Kong. These are three different Mario levels. This is one Donkey Kong level.
And I think the
Because of
Mario
how,
games kind of learned that with Wonder, because
yeah,
Wonder was very much like we have to have more going on in each level.
yeah, Wonder is, yeah, Wonder learned from that
Yeah.
and is much better for it. I would probably put Wonder as my like favorite 2D Mario now if it was. It's a bit fucking like that's. I don't know if platformers. This is going to go on a tangent, but I would like to get your input. Are platformers too short, or is it just like I'm good at them? Because I felt the same way after Astrobot. I felt the same way after Super Mario Wonder, where I'm like, I really like this. I wish there was a lot more of this to play.
I think they're that is a type of game that at some point they were making them longer and longer and longer, and then you hit DK64 and people were like, this has gone too far, these cannot be 30 hours long, my dude. And since then everyone has played it like, no, we'll keep it short. I think the way that Astrobot did it of, hey, we have a very tight campaign and then we'll add more levels as the year goes on, like that's super smart because now they have people coming back to that game and it's like a better value proposition now more than
That
ever.
new level's fucking horrid. As in, like, Jesus Christ, that thing took me like maybe a good hour. That
I
last
haven't
level to move
installed it.
back.
I'm gonna play them. Are they
Um,
challenge levels or are they like a
yeah,
traditional
there
level?
it's the vicious void galaxy. It's like
Oh,
five
okay.
minute levels in there, and the last one is like the. It feels like this is the end of Astrobot. You know how at the end of like Mario Wonder, you had that level that was like use every single badge
Yeah.
in one level. It's the same kind of thing, and it's a lot. Um, and also Twisted Metal still isn't in that game. That is so weird. What a
I
weird omission. What a
it
weird omission.
it is weird, but also like, does
Mr.
Sony?
Mosquito's in there.
Yeah, but does Sony want to bring up fucking Twisted Metal?
I mean, they're putting a fucking second season out this
You're
month,
right.
so I
You're
assume
right.
so.
Then in that case, it is weird. In a
And
world
they're
where
also putting
they,
out like 3 and 4 this month on PS Plus, which they did last time when the TV show first came out. They did 1 and 2, and this time they're doing 3 and 4. And oh boy, I hope no one enjoyed 1 and 2 and we're like, oh, I can't wait to play these new ones. Jesus Christ.
is Twisted Metal
Um,
Black on there? Oh wait, that's a
Twisted Metal
PS
Back is a
streaming game,
that
right?
was no, it was one of those PS2 games you could buy
Mhm.
originally.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
yeah.
free is not or not free. Oh god, what was that one called?
Just Twisted
The
Metal, the
It's
Just
just
PS,
Twisted.
Twisted
yeah,
Metal.
the
Yeah,
PS3 one.
that's not on there, and I don't even think that's streamable anymore.
Yeah.
But that game is online only or something like that. So I don't think
It's
I'd be
it's
touching
very
it.
heavily. It's crazy to me that like so many PS3 games you just can't play on
Yeah.
modern platforms. It's
Yeah.
like Sony's like, yeah, we don't want to. It's like this is your console.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
built this.
the wild thing is like when they talk about it as if it is available and then you play that streaming stuff and you're like, guys, this is running off of Gaikai technology. It sucks. It fucking sucks. It is so
I
laggy. It feels terrible. The idea that you think this is a acceptable way to present your own video games is mind-blowing.
the remaster culture of the early PS4, I think perhaps made them decide, yeah, we're not going to put the effort in to actually make this happen because people were buying the fuck out of those remasters when there was nothing to play in the PS4. And then probably again on the PS5. I don't know. I haven't really seen how these pointless remasters have been doing, but I assume pretty fucking well.
I know, I have a PS3 hooked up right in front of me, and I kind of want to get streaming with it again. I have had the ungodly desire to play through Siren Blood Curse. you know,
should.
everyone's favorite video
should.
game that all the kids are talking about, Siren Blood Curse.
That is a game that everybody should play. Everyone should be forced to, like, it should be like education, right? Like, all right, you are going from, grade school to middle school. You have to be able to do certain things. All right, cool. You want to talk about video games? You must play Siren Blood Curse. Otherwise, we take your card away. I'm sorry. We'll give it back to you once you've played Siren Blood Curse.
You want to talk about movies? We make you watch Jaws,
Yeah, exactly.
I think that
and we should do it when the kids are too young so that it scars them too.
I think they put the first two on PS Plus recently, if I'm right.
No, it's just the first one. It's just the first PS2 one.
That's just the first one, yeah.
I booted it up when I was preparing for Slaughterhead, and I don't love Siren that much. At least not the first one. But I'm not a horror game person, really. I don't know. I'm the odd horror game person.
Anyway, going back to monkeys,
Yes.
I'm curious. Will, are there monkeys in Everdeep Aurora?
Are there monkeys in Everdeep? Wow, I actually don't remember.
That's a good question, because I don't know what that is.
But, well, I can tell you. So Everdeep Aurora, I reviewed this for Shack News, and it's one of my favorite games that I played this year. It's a little indie project. It's been published over at Easebrid.
They do good stuff. They do super good stuff really quietly.
Yes. They are also the guys behind Demon School and Love Eternal, which if those are not on your radar, they absolutely should be. But Everdeep Aurora is this very cute game with like kind of a weirdly dark setting.
I have seen this.
You're playing this little kitten. Her name is Shell. She wakes up like something has just split the moon in half. Meteors are falling to Earth, and she has a letter from her mom saying like, "Hey, if you wake up and I'm not here, you need to come meet me at the usual place. I can't explain why." And you're not told where the usual place is, and everyone around you is like, "Hey, you need to go underground. Like, it's not safe. There's meteors. Everybody's evacuating underground." So you get a little drill, and you start drilling down underground, and you're looking for your mom. And while you're doing this, you're meeting all these other animals. So there's like a bull who is the blacksmith, and there are almost assuredly monkeys in Everdeep Aurora. I just can't remember any off the top of my head. There's like, there's a little stag. I guess she's a deer who has like this little secret, flower garden.
Is this a SteamWorld dig like?
I don't think so. No, I mean,
because I'm looking at a screenshot and there's a map that looks exactly like one of the like maps in that game where it tells you what you've cut out of the ground.
Yeah, in that case, it is similar. Yes, but it's very open-ended. Like, it doesn't really like, hey, you need to go here. It's just kind of like, you need to go find your mom, and whatever that process is, okay. And the thing that I find really beautiful about it is it has some of the most beautiful piano music I've ever heard in anything. The soundtrack is stunning. It looks incredible. It looks like a Game Boy game, but it's too pretty to be a Game Boy game. Like, it looks like the idealized version of a Game Boy game. And it's very charming. And the thing that just kind of like got me and won me over about it was there's no combat in it at all. You're never really in danger. You're just exploring, and you're meeting these characters, and you're helping them. And Shell is this very brave, very kind character, and she actively makes the world better just by being in it and interacting with these other characters. And these stories that you kind of get to be a part of and help people out with kind of lead into other stories in a very organic way. And so the story of you going to find your mom is the story of meeting these other animals and learning about them and helping them. And then they help you, like, oh, I'm going to upgrade your drill, or I'm going to give you this thing that's going to allow you to jump higher, or whatever, right? And so it's kind of this very like weirdly like community that's been created by this apocalypse that's going on over your head, and you become a part of these stories, and then you go deeper and you become part of more stories as you try to figure out what's going on and where your mom is. And I found it incredibly charming and really beautiful, so highly recommend it, honestly.
Sounds like a real Undertale, am I right?
Boo!
I'm banned from using the soundboard. Otherwise,
Yeah, so now you have to make your own soundboard noises.
That's terrible, Scott. It's terrible.
He lives a really tough life. These are his problems. We're gonna move on to the news, and ooh boy, what a fucking 2 weeks it's been. We'll start here up top. Shout out to Brian Shea at Game Informer, who put together a super comprehensive rundown of pretty much everything the day that it happened, which was really hard to do because a lot of this just came out on Blue Sky and wasn't through official channels. It was really hard to piece all this stuff together. But yeah, this is Brian Shea at Game Informer. Microsoft lays off thousands of employees, cancels Perfect Dark, Everwild, and more Xbox games. Microsoft has laid off thousands of workers across its various divisions in the latest cost-cutting measure taken by the corporation, whose 2024 revenue exceeded $245 billion, a 16% increase over 2023. Though the cuts have impacted several of the company's various divisions, Xbox appears to be particularly hard hit. This represents the fourth time in 18 months that Microsoft Gaming has laid off workers. Reminder that also includes like the Tango Gameworks layoffs, the shutting down of Arcane Austin after Redfall.
I want to say that 18 months is kind of roughly about 2 or 3 months after the Microsoft Activision deal went through.
Yeah.
When they promised they weren't going to do this, yeah.
Variety and several other outlets obtained a memo to Xbox employees from Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer. Notably, Spencer says, "Our platform hardware and game roadmap have never looked stronger, and simply put, we would not be where we are without the time, energy, and creativity of those roles who are impacted." You can read the entire thing in Brian Shea's write-up. This statement is it kind of blows my mind that this is an internal statement, because it's so clearly been written for investors to read that they want it to be out there in the public. And the idea that they sent this as an internal like memo and they were telling people not to share it, knowing that people would share it, like, ultimately at some point you realize these people have no shame and that they are just going through the motions to make the best picture or to paint the best picture for people with money. And if people with money see that they are in good shape despite these layoffs, their thought process is, well, that's a whole lot less paychecks to have to pay and they're still making money. Isn't that great? And their stock price will go fucking up. The whole statement is wild. Matt Booty also had a statement which we'll get on to Matt Booty because I think that's worth talking about. But yeah, this to kind of do a summary of the things that came out that first day. Perfect Dark is no longer a going concern, and the initiative is closed. The initiative, as a reminder, was the Sony Santa Monica studio founded in 2018. They announced Perfect Dark in 2020. Apparently that game was finally starting to come together, but had been quite slow in making progress. Everwild has been cancelled after not seeing an update for a long time. With what's the guy's first name? Mails leaving. Greg Mails, who's one of like the longest.
He's been there since like the early 90s. Like he was involved in like,
and he was
I think they said 35 years.
Yeah, all the stuff you associate with Rare, he has kind of had a hand in.
And he was the creative director on Sea of Thieves. Elder Scrolls Online, they had a game that was in development, which apparently Phil Spencer was such a fan of, he had to be asked to put the controller down in a meeting so that they could keep talking about it.
All the stuff that has come out since about that game has been like, this game was amazing, this game was so far in development, it looked real good, everyone was super happy about it.
Yeah, it was a sci-fi MMO, Project Blackbird, that was being worked on by the Elder Scrolls Online team.
And someone from that team who is also kind of a long tenured person has also left.
Yes, it's Mash Thayer or something. Matt something.
I think he was the studio head.
Yeah. And then Turn 10 has seen about 50% of its staff laid off. And the word out of there is, hey, like, Forza Motorsport as you know it, what would be a new Forza Motorsport is impossible to make now with the current level of staff that we have. And so no one really knows what the future of that studio could even be, because they certainly won't be able to make a new Forza anytime soon.
But they can make skins for Overwatch,
You're right.
My understanding was they were going to be a support team for the guys who are making Forza Horizon.
Mm.
But actual Forza Motorsport is dead.
Yeah. And then the next day, and like this kind of just is testament to how messy this was all delivered. Some people found out about them being laid off by their Slack being deactivated. And this was all done over the course of like several hours. And you would see new things hit blue sky, and then people retract things. Some people saying shit that they shouldn't be saying, and they should know better. But the next day, word got out that Romero Games had closed. Romero Games is. I'll just read this out. This is Andrew Walsh at The Journal. The Journal is a Irish news website that are pretty good. Galway-based Romero Games seeking to attract new investment for first-person shooter game. The Galway-based studio Romero Games is working to attract a new publisher for a major project after its funding partner pulled the plug, risking 100 jobs last week. The studio, founded in 2015 by Brenda and John Romero, has been working on a first-person shooter with what it described as a major publisher. Multiple sources, including staff, have said that the original publisher in question was Microsoft, which announced 9,000 layoffs earlier in the week. Brenda Romero confirmed that the sudden change in a statement on Friday, saying the decision was made at a high level within the publisher, well above our control. This game has been in development since 2022. I have talked to people who are in and around the Galway scene. I lived in Galway for 4 years myself, and everyone was super jazzed about this. It's worth noting that they put out another statement following up from this, saying Romero Games isn't closed. We have ostensibly furloughed the staff and we're looking for a new publisher. Whether that means that they'll try to rehire the staff when and if they do get a new publisher, I'm not sure. But right now, as far as I can tell, it's kind of a skeleton team there trying to find a new publisher, and trying to find new investment routes to match what they were getting from Microsoft.
This kind of is one of the best encapsulations of what the fuck were these layoffs, because that story changed so much within hours and then minute. You would hear 1 minute they are properly closed. Oh wait, no, they're not. I don't know. Again, I'm pulling this out of the top of my head, so you might have heard it as well. But from what I could tell, they had met with people from Microsoft the day before or something.
Yeah,
like
That's
so
what they said, yeah.
there's no
apparently,
mention of it.
there were some people out there on LinkedIn who were kind of like, yeah, we had a meeting with someone at Microsoft to basically have see if we were meeting our gates, which is kind of industry term for basically meeting expectations for development progress, and that meeting went really well, and that was the day before, which I hope that Microsoft person didn't know that this was coming, because if they did, again, do you have no shame?
I saw people, and again, I don't think this will come to pass, but people were begging the Pal World guy to pick this game up. That's how kind of.
Yeah, I know Devolver were out there saying
hopeless
hey, we'll message you.
Devolver was talking to John Romero specifically, I think.
Yeah, and the thing I really want to hammer home with this, because I'm pretty familiar with the Irish game dev scene, it cannot be overstated how important Romero Games is to the Irish game scene. The idea that there is an industry icon who can get worldwide talent to come to Irish summits and talk to young developers in the country. Josh Sawyer came over to Fish a couple of years back and had a terrific talk, and that only happened because the two of them worked at Midway together. Other developers come to Galway to meet up with John and Brenda, and then they talk to other people in the scene. And it's resulted in Galway having a pretty healthy indie development scene that focuses around the support that John Romero and Ardon gives it. And Romero Games was also really good from the point of view of the Irish government doesn't get games. It's something I've written about in the past. The Irish government just doesn't understand that it is somewhere between commerce and art, and they don't know whether to get the arts ministers to look over it, or to get the technology ministers to look over it, and to spearhead investment. And as a result, no one does. And that means that the games industry is always fighting for recognition and always fighting for attention and support from the government, and it is years behind where it should be as a country that has a highly trained, highly educated, English speaking workforce. It should be way further ahead of where it is. That is part of the European Union as well. And Romero Games was so good at basically being like, hey, we're really important. That's what you need to know. And people will come and meet with us, and they'll meet with you if we say that you should meet with them. And Romero Games supported small devs in the scene, and they gave legitimacy to the scene. And the idea of there no longer being a Romero Games is a really distressing thing for the Irish games industry. I'm glad that from what I've heard, they will find another partner. People want to work with John Romero, and whatever playable version of whatever they have is solid enough that people will look at it and go, we'll take a chance on this. But it's kind of batshit that the industry has come to this, that John Romero is getting cut. The other thing with this, and this is bit of original reporting from me, after this I got out there and I reached out to some folks. From what I can tell, it seems like most of Xbox European publishing endeavors are kind of gone. And that means a lot of third-party... So there's two elements to this that I've heard. One is Xbox's European publishing they've pulled back heavily on. Obviously, some of the studios that they laid off people on were American studios, but they have also massively pulled back on European publishing, who were doing a lot of third-party deals. Ostensibly, companies who were doing contract work and doing support work. And the story here really is that these layoffs are way bigger than the number that Microsoft is reporting, because there was a lot more indirect layoffs happening than are being reported. I talked to some people who would know about support studios and about third-party studios, and the loss of work. It was described to me as people are at panic stations, because a lot of these studios that would have been doing support work, or would have been doing creating art assets for the American companies, or they would have been assisting with development. Look at Iron Galaxy being farmed out for Tony Hawk, or look at Virtuos being hired to do the Oblivion remake. Studios like that who do contract work primarily. A lot of them have had huge swaths of work basically pulled from the schedule, and there's no one to fill it in. And as a result, there has been layoffs. These layoffs aren't numbers that you're going to see reported in many places, and there's probably more to come if places can't find work, which it seems like they just won't be able to, because there's no one looking for replacements. But yeah, I think that the actual story here is that when we say that Microsoft has laid off all these people, it's also, there's a massive knock-on effect to that. There is a bunch of studios right now who had been doing support work. The Blackbird game, for example. MMOs need a lot of support work. They need a lot of infrastructure work. All of those people are gone. One of the places that got hit in the Microsoft layoffs was in Cork. The Activision Blizzard have a support center, which already saw massive layoffs a few years back. From what I hear, that has also been affected. And that hasn't been reported locally, and it hasn't been reported internationally as far as I can tell, but that, apparently that kind of tech support has been hit pretty hard. So yeah, suppose the question for you two is ultimately, what is so for a long time Microsoft provided the money, if that makes sense. Microsoft could fund things because they were a big business that came into the games industry and they saw it as a growth market. And now games for them isn't a growth market because Xbox has stagnated. And so all that money that they would have pushed into what they justified as a growth market is no longer being pushed in that sense. And do you think that because of that Microsoft provides anything to the industry anymore? Because this is something I've been thinking about a lot, is does Microsoft do any good to us as an industry other than, like, I don't see them as a stabilizing force anymore. You know, there was a time when they would inject money into other companies and that would kind of be like, well, you know, they're keeping studios alive because they want things for Game Pass. And then they started shutting down places like Tango Gameworks, and it became clear that maybe they weren't as all in on Game Pass and having a plethora of consistent first party content as maybe they once said. And I get the vibe that over the next 10 years, you're going to see Microsoft scale back even more on first party development. They say there's a new Xbox hardware coming, but like, they just cancel their handheld, and that's clearly because they don't see it as a growth sector. So yeah, what do you think is next for Microsoft?
Scott, do you want to take this or?
So I realised that if you are watching diligently, it looks like I've been looking at my phone for the last time, because I saw something at a support studio of Xboxes last year, and I was trying to figure out what the fuck actually happened to it, but it looks like it's still in development. We'll avoid talking about that at the moment. It's weird because Microsoft was in that kind of spot where there were a lot of studios who, like the Ninja Furies of the world, where it makes sense that Microsoft wants to kind of bankroll
Obsidian.
something. Yeah, Obsidian as well, because they represented, like, almost gaps in a way. Like, does Xbox have horror games? Okay, here's Tango Gameworks does, or I suppose they bought Bethesda, but you know what I mean. Does Xbox have RPGs? Here's Obsidian. Does Xbox have platformers? Here's oh my
Toys
God,
for Bob.
No, they're making a game this year. They're a really good developer. Psychonauts.
Double Fine.
Yeah, Double Fine.
Double Fine. Yes.
You forgetting it made me forget it.
I know it's I shouldn't, but and I'm in a very kind of weird place with Microsoft at the moment, because the last few years I have gone from, like, I want to say hopeful is maybe the right word, because obviously monopolization is bad, but when you look at the state Activision was in, like the reports coming out of Activision, like before Microsoft
The vibe was like
in,
they needed a leadership change. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
So I was somewhat optimistic, but now I'm at the point of, like, Jesus Christ, what are they doing? Because even from, like, the Tango Gameworks layoff and all that, like, they had just lied for all of 2023, telling you that, oh, we're really happy with how Hi-Fi Rush did. And now there's stuff where I'm like, okay, we're putting our games up to $80, but also we have undervalued our games to a point where, I don't know the exact numbers, but I imagine there is a significant amount of people on Xbox who do not buy games.
Yeah, so that's a super good point. Like, I think I talked about this like 2 years ago on a Giant Bomb stream, but I went into a CEX, and you've definitely seen this too, Scott. If you look at prices of games in secondhand stores for third-party games, the Xbox versions are so much cheaper than the PlayStation versions. And the same with first-party games. First-party PlayStation games keep their value way longer than Xbox games, because people have kind of internalized that they are part of a subscription and therefore worth less.
Yeah, it's at the point now where, like, I believe, and again, don't quote me on this because I'm pulling this out of the depths. Microsoft are only publishing PlayStation 5 physical copies now for their games, which kind of puts that point even further home where what is the point of
I mean, they're doing it for stuff like Call of Duty. Obviously, they're doing physical.
yeah,
Yeah, but
but
when they
Educate 4 is going to be thing. But even then, Doom Dark Ages was like a code in the box, you know.
Yeah.
So they're doing game key cards now anyway, so who cares? But yeah, so there's just a lot of decisions since then that have maybe been like, what the fuck are we doing here? Because why would you buy, you know, Activision to kind of get this foothold and spend the whole time negotiating? Okay, you can have, well, again, don't know the numbers. You can have 5 years of literally everything, or you can have 10 years of Call of Duty. I believe the deal was something like that, with like PlayStation and Nintendo and Nvidia and stuff. But only to immediately turn around and be like, actually, here's literally everything because okay, you're not
we
getting
need it on
Starfield.
everything.
No one fucking wants Starfield. So whatever. It's not even like you can hold that against us. The one
Also, like Starfield is totally going to come to PlayStation when they
oh
get
yeah,
around
yeah,
to it.
that as
Yeah.
well. The one game that I can think of in the last like decade, two games I can think of for the last decade that have been like genuine game of the year contenders coming out of Microsoft. You had Psychonauts 2, which came to PS4 day and date, I
Yeah,
believe.
because that was announced as a
Yeah.
PS4 game.
And then Indiana Jones, which was Resident Evil 4, because they were like, oh, by the way, it's coming to PlayStation. Like months before that game even came out, they were like, by the way, just wait until like April and you
I
can get it.
will I will never in my entire life forget sitting in
Yeah,
that Gamescom announcement hall when we were sitting like 2 seats away from Phil Spencer and the other Microsoft people and just looking at his face when the date for Indiana Jones came up for PS5 and the cheer that went around. Like it was
yeah.
the loudest cheer of the night.
So
And like I've posted it on Twitter of just like the Homelander like
yeah,
reaction thing of just glassy eyed and like, oh boy.
I don't know if you were there, but see at the Xbox show Summer Game Fest last year, they had an Adobe Fair. Obviously, it was a pre-recorded thing, but beforehand, Phil and Sarah Bond
Matt
and
Booty.
yeah, probably came out and they like acknowledged the layoffs. They said, okay, yeah, this was like a couple months removed from the Tango Gameworks stuff, which is really bad that I keep calling it the Tango Gamesworks thing because I believe there were like 3 studios shut down in that.
Yeah,
But
there was two support
Tango
studios.
and Arcane.
Yeah.
Arcane, yes, that was the one. Um, and at the time, the way they spoke about it, because again, this was like the first batch, I believe. The way they spoke about it, it genuinely did come across like, okay, you know, they somewhat seem to care. But then you read fucking whatever it was. I know this comes at a time when we are doing literally amazing, but you're still losing your jobs. Like that would be hilarious on an episode of The Office for how fucking out of touch it is. But it's just depressing because you know,
So something
yeah,
I do want to touch on, because I've also heard bits and pieces around this. A lot of the blame is being laid at Phil Spencer's feet, which, like, yes, he is the head of Xbox Gaming, or he is the head of Microsoft Gaming, like, the buck stops with him. But in some ways, he is doing his job very effectively for Microsoft. He is providing
yeah,
value, and now he is reducing costs by laying people off. So, like, Microsoft is very happy with Phil's performance.
yeah. I mean, it's the
The
same kind of
person who
thing
they're
that's
not
happening.
happy with is Matt Booty, who is in charge of studios.
Mhm.
And you know, when Microsoft was doing all these acquiring all these studios, people got out there and said like, oh, we're going to let them do what they want to do, we're going to give them creative freedom to do what they want to do. And on paper that sounds great, but in reality what that meant was a lot of studios weren't given any direction or feedback. So they would go out there and they would make what they thought Microsoft wanted. That's what happened with Arcane Austin and Redfall. They were like, well, Microsoft probably wants a multiplayer game. They probably want a live service game. So they went and they adapted their skill set, which wasn't that, to make a live service game. And then Microsoft like didn't check in with them, barely, let them do what they did, let them do whatever they want, because they said they'd let these studios do whatever they wanted. And some studios thrived under that. Obsidian did really great in that because they had someone like Fergus Urquhart, who is a great leader over there and can like knows how to run a business. Same thing with Double Fine. Tim Schafer knows how to run a business and he like gives them solid direction. But then you saw other studios like The Initiative and like Arcane Austin, where the direction wasn't there and the leadership wasn't there, and they wound up getting lost in the wild, and they had no one to talk to above them. And the person who they should have been talking to is Matt Booty. And so I think that his role in all of this has to come under massive scrutiny. Because it's been like the Xbox acquisition project has been a massive failure when you look at it. When you look at the money spent and what's resulted from it, and the studios and the degree of mismanagement of those studios, that's the thing that Microsoft will be upset about as a business. It's not like, oh, we're not making money. It's, oh, we've mismanaged these studios in such a way that we're making less money than we should be. And that's like the business reality of it.
In particular, that is like the peak of frustration when it comes to that kind of let's leave them to do what they do. Because who were the initiative? It was a bunch of devs pulled from different studios to create the first quadruple A game or whatever they were saying at first.
In one of the most expensive cities in the world to live in.
And then
for 7 years, and they wound up getting a second development team in there to like try to manage it as well. Like
they brought in Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah.
Even today, Microsoft, see if you want to get like PR stuff for Microsoft, I think they have like 4 different PR firms. One for Activision, one for Bethesda, one for
Microsoft, one internal. And then sometimes people will just work with external partners anyway.
Yeah, I've had like 10 emails about Tony Hawk, none of them from the PR team for Activision. It's a weird thing over there, and it's I mean, I do get the we're not going to step in aspect of it, but also, and not that I am batting for this, but like Bobby Kotick left, all the people of that level who could do that just kind of left. Like Pete Hines is still there, right?
No, Pete Hines left.
Did he?
Yep, Pete Hines got out.
Outside of like Starfield being kind of shit, but I mean it's a Bethesda Game Studios game, so what do you expect?
Yo, I love that you went there.
Bethesda has been doing kind of all right, but also most of what Bethesda has been putting out is shit that was being made well before. Like I believe Indiana Jones was even announced before the
acquisition.
Yeah.
So sorry. Well, we just went a big tangent, but to go back to that original question, where are you on where Microsoft exists?
I don't understand what they're doing. Is the thing that gets me, because they're making money. Xbox specifically is making money. They're, for the first time in a long time, they're making, I think they were $26 billion in the black. Like, they're making money. And for a while, like, they don't, Microsoft's thing is like, they don't stick with any strategy long enough for it to work. Right? So it's like, okay, Sony is, people, they've convinced people that the market is high quality cinematic exclusives. That's what people buy consoles for. Okay, we don't have enough studios that can do that. We need to buy studios that can do that. So they go on this massive spending spree. They acquire Bethesda. They acquire, not even Bethesda. They acquire ZeniMax. Then they acquire Activision Blizzard. Okay, great, awesome. And then they acquire a bunch of indie studios with cred. Obsidian, In Exile, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, great. We're going to not touch them. We're going to let them do what they want to do. Okay. But clearly that didn't work. And they've known that this doesn't work for a while. Halo Infinite is a mess. It wasn't finished when it shipped.
They like ousted the leadership because they were so unhappy with it, which again, I mean, is really passing the buck.
How many years of delays?
It's several, right? And they built their own engine. It was this whole big thing, right? And it's going to be a 10-year Halo game. we're going to add on, we're bringing back split screen co-op. We're going to add on to that story. You're going to be able to get all that got killed. Okay, so you can't release a Halo game that you say you're going to release. This is your flagship property. This is the thing that puts your console on the map. When was the last time the Coalition released something? When was the last time? I mean, the Initiative never released anything. Double Fine, it's a small team, admittedly, but it's taken them a while to get to this stuff. So the teams, to y'all's point, the teams that had good leadership in place have been doing fine. But Microsoft refuses to take ownership of the things they bought. They just kind of assumed that they could spend money and it would work out. And it's like, no, you need to tell these studios what you expect from them and give them the resources to do it. For Obsidian, great. They knew how to make games. They knew how to do stuff. They'd been independent for a while. What they needed was QA, and that's what Microsoft gave them. And that's why Obsidian has done so well. But for a lot of these studios, they need direction. You've spent a massive amount of money to acquire all this stuff, all these things, several of which have overlap, to your point, like PR or publishing divisions or whatever. You don't integrate them. And now you're wondering, what's going on? And what doesn't even make sense about that is you had teams that were effective. Why would you cut staff at turn 10? If you were going to cut staff from anywhere, why would you cut from turn 10? Your team that has been the most consistent
So
for 20 years.
Yeah, their answer is the new Forza Motorsport underperformed, which yes it did, but also does that negate 2 decades of them leading pretty much all of their engine development,
games
all of
were
their internal
yearly.
tech. Yeah.
And part of that was hey, you guys tried a live service thing with this, you made people buy cars, that left a bad taste in their mouth. They didn't really like that. Okay, you're not going to see that in that game. You're going to see that in the next game, right? People are going to punish you for that next time. And so the new one comes out, did much better. We're cutting staff at turn 10. Why?
I know it's not that simple, but it keeps looping in my head. You own Call of Duty and Candy Crush, and you still have had four
Cuts
cuts
at Raven and King, by the way, were
Right,
part of this.
Yeah, and at Raven, right? The team that is largely responsible for your Warzone development, team that has proven over and over again, we know how to ship stuff. We can work on this timeline that you have set. We make things that people really like. And the same thing with King, right? Games that are incredibly popular, retain their user base, make money. And Xbox is making money. And I know the answer to this, and people have talked about it. It's Microsoft wants to spend money on AI.
Yeah, so
That's what it is.
That's what the reporting that came out was. Microsoft apparently wanted to put about 81 billion into AI R&D. And so this is their way of going about making the necessary cuts to have that much capital available. Because they view AI as something which at some point could be a growth market. It doesn't make money right now. It hasn't made money for the last 5 to 7 years. It
but
most
it's
likely
really good for committing atrocities.
Yeah,
Thanks, Microsoft.
Most likely AI will not make money. When you look at people who talk about AI and where that technology is actually going and the feasibility of it doing the things that these people say will eventually turn it into an infinite money-making machine, it's not capable of that. Because it's just a large language model. That's all it is. And so you have them saying that they will invest their money into that thing that isn't going to grow, instead of something that is guaranteed profit, because that profit isn't growing. That profit is just stable. And it is the most min-max, gambling-pilled, capitalist-minded, dumbass view of how to invest your money, and ultimately it's just not gonna work. I've posted this on Blue Sky, but I feel like the people who have money are living in a different version of reality than me, where everyone else just looks at this stuff and they're like, actually the product that this makes is worse, and it takes longer because people have to go in there and fix it manually, and people don't buy it because they think it looks cheap, and we're still putting money into it, despite the fact that it is so hated. You have developers out there that use it having to put out apologies and say that they'll take it out of their games. Also, something that like I've heard internally from Microsoft is like, when you work at Microsoft, you have to use Microsoft tools. So, you know, you have to use Outlook, you have to use
Teams.
365, Teams. One of those other things that they really want their employees using is Copilot. And on top of it being an AI tool that, like, most AI tools are not great for efficiency because they just require more editing work on your part to make sure that the thing that they produced are actually of a okay quality. Copilot as an AI, by the standards of the technology, is a piss poor fucking technology. It's really subpar. And people who are like, even if this AI stuff was working at the level that we could, Copilot is so far behind that it is a nightmare that we have to use this. And like, it's, I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't know if there is a future for Xbox beyond Activision and maybe Blizzard. That's where I'm at.
It's interesting because I didn't really make this connection beforehand, but the more and more we talk about it, it's just Warner Bros. It's the exact same situation as Warner Bros. Where like
It is.
those games is like fucking mid as Hogwarts Legacy is. That thing is like
The moneymaker.
one of the best selling games of all time, which is kind of nuts. And their response is like, well, we're not really that bothered about the game side. Well, Suicide Squad failed, so let's let go people from different studios, I believe is how that went. But I mean, Warner Bros. Has got, it's the same thing as Microsoft where they're shit all up the chain, Like, how do you have, like,
How do you mess up Mortal Kombat, man?
Yeah.
By making a Mortal Kombat game? Because all of them are bad.
I mean, I agree with you, but how do you mess up Mortal Kombat financially? That stuff
I know.
prints money.
Mortal Kombat
My
1
favorite
is the...
Warner Brother thing from the last couple of years was when a report came out being like, hey, they're $500 billion in debt. And then a few days later, Warner Brothers put out a press release being like, good news, as part of our like way to like make back some money and cut back on the debt, we are licensing music from all of our like official soundtracks, and we project that this will make us $1 billion. I was like, oh great, now you're only $499 billion in debt, dude.
Yeah, Warner Bros. Is something. And again, it's like the problem of like there are very talented developers under Warner Brothers and all that, but Microsoft, when you really fucking deep it, I mean, obviously this is exaggeration. It's gonna make me sound like an asshole. Do you even need talented developers with every single fucking IP you have under your belt? Like, Jesus Christ, they have what? Like Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, Tony Hawk, Halo, Overwatch, World of Warcraft, fucking... Like, how do you fuck this up when you have literally three of the biggest fucking moneymakers in history? You have, like, how many mums still play Candy Crush daily? My manager in the co-op, she wouldn't work. She'd go in the office and play fucking Candy Crush.
So
It's still huge. World of Warcraft is still huge. It's like
something that I think it's something that I hope we see over the next little while, and this is genuinely how I feel about it, is Toys for Bob got out. You know, they bought back their independence. In some ways, they did a Bungie. Things obviously aren't great over at Bungie right now for myriad reasons, but that's kind of down to its modern leadership and how terrible they are. But I am of the opinion that for a lot of these mid-sized development teams that are currently making creative works, that when they were bought by Microsoft or they were set up by Microsoft were justified as these are going to be great for Game Pass and are going to help us expand Game Pass. I think all of those studio leadership should have an eye on the door of how do we make ourselves independent again? How do we make a deal with Microsoft to go to third party? Even if we still are in a contract with them, like, Microsoft isn't a stable owner. Not from the point of view of like, oh, it's losing money and it's, you know, it's from the point of view of it's liable to just lay off all your workers because it's not doing well enough.
And even then, they're working with Microsoft still. They're doing
and that's
probably Spyro, I imagine.
Yeah, And like,
But
there's part of me that's like, oh, that's what, like, if I were Tim Schafer, and if you haven't watched Psych Odyssey, go watch Psych Odyssey, and especially go watch the few episodes where they talk about selling to Microsoft and the lead up to that. And there's a scene in there that I'll never forget, which is them talking to Matt Booty about Amnesia Fortnite. And one of the developer and Tim Schafer says to him, kind of like, we do this thing Amnesia Fortnite, and it's to brainstorm ideas. And some developers might want to go take those ideas if we don't decide to turn them into full blown projects and work on them in their own time. And Matt Booty basically just says, like, well, you have to consider that, Microsoft owns those now. If they're made on company time, we own them. So I'm not sure we'd allow people to do that. And the camera zooms in on Greg Rice's face, who was the head of their biz dev, who basically made that deal. And you can see the moment of realization where he's like, oh, I'm the person that made this deal. Oh, and it's like, I need to rewatch that series, but like, man, if I were Tim Schafer, I'd be like, how do we get the same deal that Toys for Bob did?
it's
Yeah.
it's interesting that.
Oh, Scott, you go ahead.
Sorry, the oh my god, Double Fine thing is really it's one of the tougher ones because they have also come out and said like that game was not coming together until
Yep. Very
they
late.
got in, but also Double Fine used to put out like 2 or 3 games a year. Double Fine have put out like 1 game since they got bought by Microsoft. Anyway, sorry, Will, go ahead.
No, I think, like I was thinking about like what do we see like the future of Microsoft being in the space? Like what do they provide, right? Like I was thinking back to the basic question. And for a while, I think we all kind of hoped that the answer would be like stability for developers who like were one bad project away from that's it, right? Because that's where Obsidian has been for a long time. For them, that makes sense to have that stability, to have like, yeah, you have a team now that does Q&A for you. We that will publish you, that you have that safety net. But like the funny thing is like Xbox is a rounding error for Microsoft.
Yeah.
Like this is $1 trillion company. They have more money than God. This doesn't need to be profitable for them. It is profitable for them, and they still can't figure out how to make it work. It's what do you like? I wrote about this in a piece I did a couple weeks ago, but the idea is like you can't ship a Halo game. Why should anybody trust you with Warcraft or Guitar Hero or Spyro or any of these other things that you have just gobbled up and don't seem to understand the value of? I mean, for God's sakes, if Turn 10 isn't safe from this, nobody is safe from this. If the Coalition can't make a Gears game, if Microsoft doesn't even give them the direction of, okay, we're making a new trilogy, and then apparently that's just not happening anymore. Okay, we're making a prequel. Where is it? Like, there is no direction for any of this. And so now, I think to Lex's point, like if I was one of those studios that I thought I could do like the IO thing where we're independent, we're going to make this work on our own, terms, I would be trying to figure out how I could do that as fast as I possibly could. Because it doesn't matter if the game is good. It doesn't matter if the game makes money. It doesn't matter if the game is prestigious. It does not matter. Somebody over your head, over Phil Spencer's head says, we need money for AI, and studios close, games get shut down. It doesn't matter. Like you had hoped, like I know consolidation is bad, and I knew like from the moment they purchased Bethesda and Activision, like this is not good. But like you hoped that somebody with this much money, where this doesn't have to make money for you immediately, would have the patience to be like, all right, let's figure out how to make this work. We've got all this money, and instead it's like, well, that was fun. We're bored now. Next thing.
Feels like they have also bought Activision's like decision making in a way, like the Tony Hawk 1+2 situation where that was did really well as far as I can tell. And
It was the
the
best selling
reward
Tony
was
Hawk game of all time for a
yeah,
series that sold famously well.
By a considerable margin too. It wasn't like a little bit. It was by a lot.
The reward was okay, go work on Blizzard skins, and it's the same kind of thing now where like you can do something so like Hi-Fi Rush is the most beloved thing I think Xbox has put out since like the 360 almost. I can't think of a Xbox One game that had that anyway. Oh wait, no, Psychonauts 2.
Yeah.
But before that,
Or Hellblade, maybe.
First Hellblade,
Maybe.
yeah.
the first one
Yeah.
wasn't even them, was it?
First
Yeah.
one, they were independent at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Microsoft published and funded it.
Oh,
No.
right. Okay, I didn't know. But the other question I wanted to kind of ask you is, does Halo or Gears or anything like that even have it anymore? Like the stuff that is going about of what the Halo team might be doing at the moment is very much just like, you know, I mean, the biggest rumor is, oh, they're going to remaster Halo 1, which, you know, if we look at the 343's track record, that would make a third of their games Halo 1 remasters, I want to say. But does Halo even have that anymore? Does Halo have the sauce? Does Halo bring people in? Does Gears of War bring people? Like, I don't even think if they turn it around that Halo and Gears of War even have the kind of like the sauce to have people in. Because I do go on at Sony for not using old IPs, but you know, there was a reason that God of War went away for a while. You know, Gears of War, they just tried to do, okay, here's
And
same
when
with
it came
Halo, they
back, it
just
was
tried,
fresh. When it came back, it
yeah.
legitimately felt fresh. And
Whereas Halo and that,
I don't think people felt that way when Gears 5 came out, you know?
yeah.
I
But yeah, I don't know if those, even if E-Day is like the game of the year or Halo Infinite somehow turns it around and becomes like Marvel Rivals levels of like whatever. I don't know if Halo or Gears has that anymore. And at that point, what do they have? Like, okay, they have Call of Duty, you know?
I think I think that's a completely reasonable question. I think Gears absolutely has it. That game did well. Like Gears 5 even, I know people, it's like it's not as fresh as 4. Okay, sure. But like there was a competitive scene for that game. There were sponsors for that competitive scene. It did well on Twitch. Like there was a scene for that game. That game did well, it sold well, it had people who stayed and played it. And Infinite, it's really easy to dunk on it now, but that game, like when everyone was like, "Oh man, it'll be so good once they improve this," like the launch week, the launch month for that was bonkers numbers. It did really well. I think there's an appetite for that stuff. I think what people are tired of is like, if people don't believe in those things anymore, it's because they're tired of being disappointed. Like, Gears, I think less so, but Halo specifically, like, when was the last time anybody looked at something that had Halo on it and was like,
I feel good
and
about
believed
this.
in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and believed in it, right? Like truly, wholly believed in it. It was easy when it was a bunch of games.
We believe in this IP so much, we are changing the branding of the developer.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
people feel so bad about how this IP has been handled. We are renaming the developer so that you don't think about those previous games.
I feel like, to me at least, it felt like Infinite was, after Halo 4 was just kind of okay and 5 was, no one liked it, you know. It felt like Infinite was going to be the, okay, this has to hit. Otherwise, what is Halo going forward? And I don't know. I don't know, Gears 5, yeah, you're right. I didn't pay attention to the competitive scene or anything like that, but it was, from what I hear, fairly beloved. But at the same time, Gears was like you know? Like Gears 2 wasn't the game, and that's like the year after Halo 3 came out. It's the year after Modern Warfare came out. Gears 2 was still like such a fucking just all encompassing beast on the 360, at least from growing up playing it. Um, and I don't know if I'm feeling the same way about E-Day. It feels almost kind of desperate in the way that Halo Infinite kind of did, but also they haven't exactly shit the bed in the way that Halo did. And I keep, I don't know if we want to keep going on too much longer, but I just keep thinking, think about how unhappy people are with Sony right now. Think about how Sony's live service strategy and like the
They've
PS5
canceled what,
stuff,
11 things?
yeah,
Like
the lack of new games is really hurting the PS5 in terms of word of mouth. Uh, they should be struggling, but their opponent is the champion of standing in their own balls and falling down the stairs. Like it should be a fucking slam dunk with the talent and all that, and you could take advantage of what Sony has because they did during the PS3 era. They
Mhm.
could take advantage of. Okay, people aren't happy with Sony right now, but they're not. And honestly, it just leaves Nintendo where it's like, okay, in terms of I am buying this console and I will trust I will get good games out of it. Like I know I'm gonna like the Switch too. I the PS5's been fine, but it's the same as the PS4. Where like, have I liked the PS5 because of what Sony has been doing, or have I liked the PS5 because
It's been a
there
great
have been very
generation
good
for games.
games?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Um,
I don't think Sony put out a really kind of outside of Bloodborne. It felt like that generation of Sony, the PS4, did not really get started until like God of War. Like that
Yeah.
felt
2017.
like
Yeah.
when they fucking hit. And even then, I don't feel like that generation got started until about 2017, where we had like Persona, Resident Evil, Yakuza, and Nier. They were all PlayStation exclusives. They don't even have that anymore. They're all multi-platforms now, you know. And
And like some of
it
that
kind of
isn't necessarily a bad thing because ultimately more
yeah.
people are just playing those games.
No, yeah, I do like that. But what I'm saying is like Sony doesn't even have that going for it anymore, and it's still like fucking miles ahead of Xbox,
Yeah.
and
Uh,
they are flubbing this generation so hard.
2 in a row. I think this is a different conversation entirely. I think we are coming to the end of what the game console is, or at least what we've thought of as the game console. I
And so
think,
like that's the one line of thinking that people have kind of had with Xbox is, are they just waiting until a point that the European courts take what they have ruled for mobile phones, which is you have to be allowed third party app stores on mobile phones, and they apply it to game consoles. And they say PlayStation must allow an Xbox storefront um, on the PlayStation. And that's the only way that Xbox's strategy makes sense, which seems like the Hail Maryest of Hail Marys to bet the house on that.
yeah. But even then, I think the problem is deeper than that. I think the problem is not that like the Game Pass strategy is going to work functionally. I don't think there's a way the Game Pass strategy functionally works. I don't think it's feasible. Like it works when maybe Microsoft says we have infinite money and we will dump infinite money into this, but they're clearly not willing to do that anymore. So but I think like the idea of what a game console was, where it was something you bought and you went and you bought a game and you put it in the console and then played, right? That was the benefit of a console. You didn't have to go set stuff up, you didn't have to download anything, it just worked. You put a game into it and it played the game, right? And we've gotten really away from that. And game consoles have become just kind of shitty PCs in a lot of ways, where they don't offer that plug and play functionality. You have to download stuff. You have to deal with massive file sizes. You basically have to have an internet connection. You have to have all these things because even if you go buy a physical disc, it doesn't come on the physical disc anymore. And because all these games take so long to make and are so expensive, you get fewer of them. And on top of that, all the stuff that you would buy a console like the PS2 for, where this only comes out on the PS2, well, now that's everywhere, right? So, what is the point of owning a PlayStation? Not a game console, a PlayStation. What is the point of owning an Xbox? Because it doesn't give you those things anymore. The only thing that gives you that now is the Switch. That's it. It's the only thing that is interested in being a game console.
And I do think that's sort of why the Switch is like running away with it, like in a way. Like when you think about, obviously the pandemic had a lot to do with it, but when you think about why the Switch was so popular during that time, is okay now. I mean, the pandemic and Animal Crossing is the most fortunate of fucking timings I think any game company will ever have, like ever.
Mhm.
Like Animal Crossing is, it was big before. Animal Crossing is now like number 2 or 3. Like it's fucking Mario Kart, it's Mario, and then it's like Animal Crossing. But with Animal Crossing, it was just as simple as like, okay, cool, you buy the game, you put it in. and there is account systems and shit, but it's not exactly like you don't have to set up like usernames or anything like that. It's just simply like, okay, you're now connected, go play with whoever the fuck. And I know liking exclusives is kind of bad, but I do like exclusives, and I feel like we were maybe at a healthier point when we had exclusives. And I don't know if that is maybe because the price of shit is obviously just going up and up and up. So like Xbox isn't going to make the money back on Indiana Jones, especially not with it launching on Game Pass day one, unless they did this multi-platform release. But I feel like the PS2, PS3, like it was healthier in a way where it felt like it's the WWF WCW thing where like because there was that competition there, it felt like everyone was trying super hard to kind of make this something,
Yeah.
and then since this kind of last generation or so, where like okay, everything's coming to PC, everything's coming to other platforms,
PlayStation
and like
and then Switches for kids,
yeah,
and
like
they're not really competing in the same way that they once were,
yeah,
where they are going for different market segments, and now they can just kind of sit in their lane and they can stagnate. You're totally right. You're totally right.
yeah, and it's a bigger symptom because obviously we are in the era of budgets ballooning out of fucking control and games just getting too big and having too much put into them because everything needs to have this one element. Everything needs to have RPGs. Everything needs to have like it's. I often talk about how you don't get Devil May Cries anymore. You only get kind of Dark Souls when it comes to action games like Stellar Blade. It's obviously it's not an actual Souls like, but it's the same kind of thing where you it's kind of more fully featured in the sense
Yeah.
that there's more stuff to tinker about with. Whereas Devil May Cry 5 came out, and that is literally just like they even fucking streamlined that. They took out like items and stuff. You just had to play through the levels. There was no healing items or anything like that anymore. They streamlined it to the point where that and
It
all
is
the
as pure as it can be.
yeah, it's just okay. Go through these levels. Now you have a harder mode where you them again. And that's it. And it's that's still one of my kind of favorite games of this generation. And I think Capcom, especially, is showing kind of how it's done because I don't think there's anyone working on that level right now than Capcom is. And the only kind of failure on Capcom's books in the last kind of let's say since Resident Evil 7, I don't know if you can count Marvel Infinite, but other than that, the only kind of failure on Capcom's books has been Exo Primal, and even then, I think that
Even
did
then, like that
fairly.
game probably got greenlit because it was coming to
Yeah,
Game Pass. You know?
but Capcom's now
Yeah.
at the point where they can fuck about.
Yeah.
Like no other publisher is making Kunitsugami. No other publisher is making. Well, there are publishers making Overwatch because that's what Exo Primal is. But you know what I mean? Like you don't really see that from other publishers. Like Bandai Namco, occasionally you get like a. Is it Unknown Nine that was called?
Yeah.
Yep.
Unknown 9.
Yep.
They have enough anime money to fucking fill a bathtub. Um, but oh god, books are going down. Like, that's what I'm trying to get
Yeah. No.
across. Like
I
Capcom is
get you.
in a good
Um.
spot that I don't know if you can do anymore.
Yeah.
Because of how things are.
And obviously, this story definitely isn't over. Like, there is a certain amount of because Microsoft is so big that when things happen to it happens to the industry. So I think that reporting on it is still important to be aware of the state of the industry because there is so much money tied to them. Um, but yeah, we'll talk about this more as the weeks go on. Um, but for everyone that lost their jobs, fucking shit sucks. I'm so sorry. You deserve better. Um, and this industry is a real motherfucker. Last news story before we move on to questions from our patrons. Um, This comes from Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. GTA actor Michael Madsen dead at 67. Veteran actor Michael Madsen, who played Tony Cipriani in Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 3 and was known for his work in numerous Quentin Tarantino's films, has passed away. He died July 3rd at the age of 67. He is understood to have died of cardiac arrest. He has also starred in games like Liberty City Stories, True Crime, Streets of LA, The Walking Dead Season 2, Driver 3, Dishonored 1 and 2's Crime Boss Rockay City, and he was infamously the English voice of Shimano in the first Yakuza game in the West. Yeah.
What a cast. What a cast that first Yakuza game had.
Oh, just the most
Real.
utter nonsense. It's a terrible dub, but it is fascinating.
He's a real good video game voice actor.
Yeah, you don't think of him as a video game voice actor, but you know, he was doing The Walking Dead season 2, and like that
he was
villain
the best part of that
yeah,
season.
he was super compelling, and like he understood voice acting in a way that I don't think a lot of other Hollywood voice actors do. You know, we talked about it earlier in the show, but he got in there early with GTA 3 when video games were breaking big with Hollywood talent, and he was good at it. And you know, 67 is too young. So yeah, this really sucks.
What a run.
Yeah, like you look at that IMDb page, boy, that dude was in some quality shit.
Yeah.
And Crime Boss Rocky City.
And Crime Boss Rockay City. I can attest to that one. So we move on to questions from our Q&A. We have a quiz. We're going to get to that next week because it's one that I think Henry would like to be here for. First up, first question here. If a long-lost great uncle died and left you a fortune and you never had to work again, what sort of games would you choose to produce just for the pleasure of it? So if you could go out and get any game just made, you know, for the hell of it, what would you have produced? Will, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I have 3 answers to this. First, classic RTSs in the vein of like Warcraft or Starcraft or games like that.
Good
Secondly,
news, Battle Aces is coming out any day. Oh no. I just heard what happened to Battle Aces.
you know, I have high hopes for Stormgate.
Stormgate?
Yeah. I actually think that game could be good. So those action games, actual honest to God action games in the vein of Devil May Cry, the old school God of Wars, Ninja Gaiden, that sort of thing. And finally, arena shooters. I miss Tribes.
Cool. Scott?
I am also in the action. My original answer was just going to be Devil May Cry, but I've got specific ideas. First off, you make God Hand again, but you base it off the 1991 Chinese film Rikio Story of Ricky, which I don't know if you have seen.
Yes, I have.
Yeah,
maybe you should just get like Shinji Mikami to make a Rikio game.
No, but like specifically that plays like God Hand.
Yeah.
A Donkey Kong game that plays like God Hand. A F-Zero game that plays like God Hand. I would really like a tactical RPG set in the Metal Gear universe that has a free on the end of it as well. Also, I would buy Kojima and Metal Gear Solid 6, even though he absolutely doesn't want to.
I know, did you play Death Stranding? He doesn't seem over fucking Metal Gear to me. He seems like he still thinks about that franchise a fucking lot.
That's a conversation for another time, but he talked about when he, in that interview where he's talking about how he almost died, and that's how he realised he wanted to do Fizzin'. He was like, oh, we explored a bunch of options. And part of me is like, did Sony think about buying Metal Gear?
Yeah. That conversation probably happened at some point.
And I would, it's like, this is the most like anti-art thing, because it's cool that Kojima gets to make all this weird shit, but fuck, I would love him to make another one. Just one more. Infinite money. Do what Metal Gear Solid 5 should have been. Just fucking do it. But
my answer for this is I would just go out there and one, give money to my trans friends who make cool shit, because I know some really cool people that need and deserve money. And the other one is I would bring back Sony Japan. or like bring back the people who worked at Sony Japan and just get them making weird shit again. Scott, I'm
Well,
assuming you agree
we
with
look like assholes now.
that.
I'm gonna do a nice thing with my money instead
Yeah,
of
yeah.
fun
I'm
10
gonna
God has.
solve
Yeah,
world hunger. I'm not gonna use it for video games.
I
Ha!
don't want the cure for cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs.
Listen, I
Um,
answered the question I was asked. Okay.
Yeah. Second question here. Considering this, and it's a link to Jason Schreier's reporting surrounding Subnautica 2 and all the stuff that's going on with that, and the fact that Krafton owns Tango Gameworks, how less optimistic are you of Hi-Fi Rush 2's chances of actually coming out? We didn't talk about this in the news. We'll probably talk about it in the next edition of this show because this seems like an ongoing story.
yeah,
The Subnautica
is,
stuff is a mess.
yeah, it's getting quite messy.
It is bonkers.
So I'm in a very weird spot with this right now because to kind of give the thing of events, the reports came out that they were fired and there was this bonus put up.
The heads
then,
of the company were fired, and
yeah, and
Jason
then
Schreier then got out there and said that Subnautica 2 was delayed to 2026, and that possibly the reason for that delay was that Krafton, the owner of the developer, had signed a deal with the developer where if they hit a certain revenue target in 2025, they would pay them $250 million, and that money would go to the developers and people working on the game. And that by Krafton dictating that Subnautica 2 would have to be pushed to 2026, they would not be able to hit that target.
But at the same time, the statement Krafton put out afterwards is so kind of
it's aggressive. It's you don't see statements like this from companies very often.
Yeah, that I am like, would you say that if you could not back it up somehow? And there was some on that. Obviously, it's not confirmed because it's that gaming leaks and subreddit, and I'm pretty sure it's like,
yeah, but basically,
my dad works at Nintendo, but there were like documents going about today with very convenient timing that kind of supports some of what Krafton was saying. So it's going to be one.
So what for Krafton's part, they got out there with a statement that basically said these leads and owners of the company, or ex-owners of the company they sold to Krafton, but these studio heads had basically neglected their posts and hadn't been working on the game. And they claim that the game was ready for early access. Krafton claims that it wasn't, and now they have gone out there and said that they are suing Krafton and taking them to court. So, yeah, I don't think this is like the last of this story. What it means for Hi-Fi Rush 2, I don't know. It's worth noting Krafton is owned by Tencent, and Tencent is really fucking bad at making video games. I'm not sure if you've noticed this. They really suck at this. And so, yeah, I think, like, ultimately, the Tango Gameworks people, as long as they're getting a paycheck at the moment, I'm happy for them. You know, they deserve that. If they get to release a game at the end of it, that would be great. I'd love to play whatever they're working on. But I hope this doesn't mean something terrible for them.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I'll answer very quickly, but people don't know this about me, but I actually used to work for a law firm that specialized in like defamation and libel and all that fun stuff. Companies do not put out statements like that unless they are absolutely sure of what they're saying. Like, they feel very good to release a statement like that, is what I will say.
And it was sent to press as a press release, as a, hey, you should publish this as a news article. Which is basically like, hey, we want this in the court books.
Yeah, this is very much a, we want this to be public record. And they are doing it very intentionally. So I don't know who's in the right or who's in the wrong here, but I will tell you that I don't think Krafton would have done that unless they felt very good about what they were saying.
Yeah. So that definitely won't be the last of it. Before we go, we have shout outs to our Rewinder store clerks. These are gold tier supporters of our Patreon and website. This week they are Owen Waters, Chris Haney, Caladrius, I think I got it right this time, Branford Hubbard, Daniel Noak, and Guy Thompson, sorry. And big thank you to everyone else, as always, for your continued support. we're planning on doing a meeting on what we want to do with the website going forward.
We're shutting it down.
Yeah,
It was a good 2 months.
Yeah, decided that there wasn't enough Donkey Kong discussion in the Discord, and so we shut it down. This is all of your fault, patron supporters. You didn't talk about Donkey Kong enough in that channel we set up. Before we go, everyone, let the fine folks know where they can find you. Will, let us know what you're up to and what you will be up to over the coming weeks.
So we are up to a bunch of different things over at Skybox. You can find me there. That's skyboxcritics.com. Also, of course, at Blue Sky at Edgar Allan Bro. I'm working on College Football 26 for IGN. After that, I will be working on several other reviews for IGN that I don't know if I can talk about yet. But I'm also always there. I'm always at Shack. And obviously, we're doing stuff at Skybox. And, find me on Blue Sky.
Cool. Scott, what are you up to?
I am with Games Radar for the rest of the month doing news. In terms of reviews, I am completely free, so I'm going to be doing some stuff on the site with Patapon. Not that other game, because I forgot who it was published by, or their links to something I've talked about. So not a certain skateboarding game, but I have been doing work stuff with that elsewhere. And then I think that's me. I mean, Donkey Kong's going to be out by the next time we're on here.
Red Faction Gorilla, baby.
So that's going to be my.
I'm sure we'll get review codes. I'm sure they'll send us review codes, right? Nintendo loves sending codes to smaller websites. They love it. I'm new to this.
You never know.
You never know.
I like the people at Nintendo are very good.
Yeah, they're nice people.
Corporate.
Yeah, and as a reminder, you can find me on Blue Sky at lexloddy.xyz. You can follow Rewinder on Blue Sky. Is it rewinder.co.uk? We have the .co.uk. We do.
I don't know. I'm scottmcrae.com, by the way. I forgot to mention.
You can check out the written word on the website, rewinder.co.uk. You can support us on Patreon or the website. The Patreon is patreon.com/rewinder. Follow us on Twitch. I'm going to get streaming some stuff there over the coming weeks. Rewinder Media, I think, is our Twitch. And yeah, until next time, take care of yourself and goodbye.